Hello, my name is Sam, and I'm 24 years old. Do you want to look cool? Cooler than you really are? Then listen to my story because my vanity almost cost me my hand. As a child, I was scrawny, so perhaps it's not surprising that I dreamed of becoming strong, like a young Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example, or like my favorite hero, the Hulk. I was always determined to get big, and by 16, I was very interested in bodybuilding. I started going to the gym regularly and worked out to a strict routine. I would spend hours at the gym, getting buff. I used to dream that my hands would become powerful like tree trunks and that my abs would be visible through my shirt. You see, I wasn't doing all of this just to stop being so scrawny, but because I wanted to get girls. I'd seen how popular guys with huge muscles were with the opposite sex, and that's what I wanted to have. There was just one problem. There are 3 types of build a person can have: ectomorphic, mesomorphic, and endomorphic. These are natural builds that everybody has, and no amount of time at the gym can change. For bodybuilders, the best build to have is a mesomorphic build, because it means you will be naturally strong and athletic. An endomorphic build is okay as well. It's harder to regulate your weight gain, but you'll have powerful limbs. For a bodybuilder, the worst build is an ectomorphic one: a thin body, small muscles, and narrow shoulders. Exactly my build. I hated what I saw in the mirror every day, so I tried relentlessly to build muscle. For months, I trained hard, and I had some success. The muscles in my arms grew, my shoulders widened, and eventually my six-pack became more defined. I became more confident in myself, and whereas I used to be afraid to talk to strangers, now I would approach any girl I fancied, because I knew that she would definitely like what she saw. One day, after a workout, I met a girl, Christy. How could I have known what meeting her would mean for me? When I walked up to Christy in a cafe near the gym and talked, sparks started flying between us from the first minute. I was just really happy, but soon this feeling passed. It seemed to me like I wasn't big enough to impress Christy. I wasn't strong enough. My muscles had kind of stopped growing, but I really wanted to get bigger for Christy. But I couldn't seem to gain any more mass, all because I'm an ectomorph. I needed a personal trainer, but just didn't have enough money for one. I began training even harder than before, and yet nothing happened. It seemed to me that my muscles, if anything, were getting smaller. But I couldn't stop, and faced with the lack of success, despite trying harder than ever, began to drift into depression. Even when I was with Christy, I felt that there were problems. I was gloomy and glum because I knew that if I couldn't get bigger, I would lose Christy. I was in the gym, working out as usual, when I was approached by a regular called Harvey. He was an experienced bodybuilder, and I had noticed him first when Christy, visiting me at the gym one time, greeted him by name. I never asked how she knew him. His form was outstanding, and I feared Christy was friends with him. I didn't want to seem jealous, but I simmered with resentment. Nevertheless, Christy never struck up a conversation with him and seemed to stay a distance from him. Harvey said that he admired my commitment but saw what my problem was and offered to help me achieve my goals. He suggested I start injecting synthol, and I immediately tensed up. I thought that this was some kind of steroid, and I didn't want to ruin my health. But Harvey explained that this wasn't some kind of chemical muck, just fat mixed with painkillers. The way it would work was to penetrate deep into your muscles and mechanically expand them, just like stretching out fibers. I understood that this was just what I needed. To play it safe, I decided to experiment only on one arm at first. Within a few days, it was noticeably bigger. It was incredible, and my hand was so strong it was something like out of a comic book. I felt like the Hulk. Of course, I immediately bought another batch from Harvey, though he explained that the first batch had been much cheaper as it had been my first, and that if I wanted more synthol, it would cost me more. At the time, I was too focused and impressed to really listen to what he was saying. I couldn't stop. My relationship with Christy started to deteriorate. She would make a scene, saying that I didn't pay her any attention, but I knew deep down what the real issue in our relationship was. She simply wasn't happy with my appearance and wouldn't admit it. Around the same time, pain started to flare up in the arm I had been injecting. When I asked him about it, Harvey told me that it was a side effect of not injecting regularly enough. You couldn't stop, apparently, or otherwise your muscles would dry out and contract, painfully. So I started to sell things to buy more synthol. At first, it was my stereo system, then my smartphone, but still, I didn't think there was a problem. Stupid, right? I awoke one morning and, to my horror, realized I had nothing to sell. The only thing left in my apartment that I could sell quickly was Christy's laptop. She had left it over the night before, and she was now at work. I took it, ready to put it in my bag and head down to the pawn shop when it hit me. What was I doing? Was I prepared to steal from the girl I loved? But I had to maintain my muscles or she would leave me. My head was a mess. I felt like I was going crazy. Anyway, I stopped buying this stuff from Harvey. Thought it was going to happen. It was so bad I couldn't leave the apartment. When Christy came back, she insisted I see a doctor. She told me, "Your hand isn't muscular, it's swollen. It's like 100 bees stung in your shoulder." It's like I had an eye-opener. Why didn't I listen to her before? At the hospital, the doctor told me that synthol was toxic and that all the time I had been using it, I'd been poisoning my body. It was unbelievable, and I was so mad that Harvey had been swindling me. I had to have the synthol surgically removed, which meant destroying nearly all of the muscle in my left arm. They might even have to amputate, the doctor said. I was in complete shock. I walked out of the doctor's office thinking that Christy was going to leave me. She wouldn't want to stay with a freak, let alone a scrawny, one-armed one. I told her everything, what the doctors had said, about Harvey, about my fear she was about to leave me. I will never forget the look on her face. She was as shocked as I was, but for different reasons. She explained that Harvey was her ex-boyfriend, and she thought that he was so desperate to get back with her, he had targeted me. I don't understand. Why did you break up? I mean, he's so buff and I'm so... Christy stopped me right there, explaining that she didn't care about how buff I was. She told me she liked me because I was interesting and funny and cute, just as I was. For the second time that day, I was stunned. Christy loved me for me, not for my muscles or abs. After my operation, a difficult rehabilitation would be ahead of me, but Christy, to her credit, stuck by me. She's so kind and supportive, and to be honest, I was happy to feel myself again. And you know what? I won't be going back to that gym ever again. There's still one thing that bugs me about all this, however. What should I do about Harvey? What would you do in my place? Tell me in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe to the channel for more great content.